Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Bull Take Scouting Podcast. Throughout the season, we're going to be bringing to you every few weeks a review of the rookies across the NFL, how they've been performing, who surprised us, who we've been impressed with the most, predictions for the rest of the season. So, Alex, of all these rookies, we've seen a lot of good performances. We've been giving out the Rookie of the Week every single week on our Instagram, which you can definitely check out. People like those posts. Who has really impressed you the most in this rookie class so far?
So I'm going to go with someone that I maybe hasn't been the best overall rookie, but the one whose performance has kind of shocked me the most. And I'm going to go with Tariq Woolen, the cornerback for the Seahawks. He was a guy who had all the skills, the athleticism. He was just really raw coming out of college, and he's really jumped onto the scene from week 1, week 2, and he's showing that he's a starting caliber cornerback that can make plays. He's had a couple interceptions already, so he hasn't been the best rookie in my opinion, but to me he's been the most impressive because of how quickly he's transitioned.
Yeah, I think that's a really good pick. I'm floored by how quickly he's adjusted because, as you said, he was super raw, elite traits. We're talking about a guy who's 6'4", super long, and he might be the fastest player in the NFL. He actually recorded the fastest top speed since Raheem Mostert week 2 of 2020. Just incredible for someone who's 6'4". He's going to be a superstar in this league for sure. A guy that at the same position that I think is, more along the lines of we knew he was going to be this good and he's confirming it is Sauce Gardner. I mean, he's going to be a perennial Pro Bowler. That's very clear. He's already a lockdown CB1. Guys are just not throwing the ball to. We're seeing him, week in, week out. Bunch of coverage snaps. You see him, one catch, 9 yards, stuff like that. Several games with less than 10 yards allowed. He's really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, he might be the best overall rookie so far. And Stingley's a great player in his own right, but I just don't really know why Stingley went ahead of Sauce, especially with injury concerns that Stingley had coming out.
Yeah.
And I mean, both of them are good cornerbacks. I expect them to be starting caliber cornerbacks for a long time, but Sauce just has something special about him.
Yeah, Stingley was drafted at his ceiling, whereas Sauce's ceiling is pretty much the same, and he was a much safer bet to hit it. So I agree that I don't really get it. I will shout out the cornerback class as a whole, though, because, we've already talked about Sauce, Tariq Woolen. Derek Stingley has had his moments, and there's several other guys who have been performing really well. Jack Jones for the Patriots, a fourth-round rookie. He's had multiple really good picks for them. Martin Emerson, a guy that I really liked, had a mid-second round grade on him, went in the third round to the Cleveland Browns. He's been starting on the outside for them and playing well. Kier Elam had a rough game against Pittsburgh the other day, but other than that, he was playing really well so far. So it's nice to see the cornerbacks acclimate so quickly and make such a good impact.
Yeah, I'd say that's the best positional rookie class so far.
I would agree with that.
But let's get to one of the most intriguing positions on the rookies, the quarterbacks. We didn't see any quarterbacks start until this week. We saw Kenny Pickett get his playing time against the Jets in week 4. But Kenny Pickett and Bailey Zappi, the first two rookie quarterbacks to start, and one's not a surprise and one is a massive surprise. But I mean, injuries happen, and So, Kosta, what do you think about Kenny Pickett's first 2 games so far, or first game and a half?
I think it's really too early to judge him. It's always hard to make your debut coming in mid-game when the starter's been underperforming. You really weren't expecting to play. I don't really like putting a rookie in that situation because they're not mentally preparing themselves to play. Even if they do their best to, I think a lot of quarterbacks that end up being backups in this league, it takes them a long time into their career to prepare every week mentally as if they are going to be playing. Teddy Bridgewater said that he's made sure to do that now because a couple of years ago, he got thrown in there when Drew Brees got hurt and he just wasn't ready. So that might have been a little bit of why it was a bit of a rough performance for Kenny Pickett. At the same time, though, within his 3 picks against the Jets, one was a Hail Mary and the other 2 were tipped passes, a little underthrown, but still tipped. And then he's making his first start against Buffalo, which is, maybe the best team in the league. And he had his rough moments again, but he did have flashes. And, he had to throw it 52 times, granted, but 327 passing yards against Buffalo is still an accomplishment. So I don't like the situation they put Pickett in, and that's why his play has been uneven. It might keep being uneven because the team's not that good. The play calling isn't going to do him many favors either. But I think it's a little too early to tell, and I definitely don't think he should be facing any harsh criticism.
Oh, I totally agree. To get thrown in there on the Jets game, I mean, what he did besides those interceptions was, really impressive. He led the offense. He looked under control. He looked composed. He had those 2 rushing touchdowns. And like you mentioned, he had that underthrown ball to Chase Claypool, and you can make the argument Claypool's 6'4". The safety, I'm pretty sure, was 5'8" or 5'9". Claypool, probably should have been able to come away with that ball, but he's had a couple interceptions. But again, like you mentioned, right, he hasn't been preparing as if he was a starter until pretty much a week ago. And he also doesn't have a great offensive line, not great play calling. It's going to be a season of growth for Kenny Pickett, I think. If I was a Steelers fan, I wouldn't expect to make the playoffs. I would expect to see growth week in and week out from Kenny Pickett. You'll probably see some really good games from him. You'll probably see some not so good games. That's what happens for rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah, I totally agree. Let's talk about the other rookie who made his first start this week, and that's Bailey Zappi. I've been really impressed with Zappi. One series into the game, Brian Hoyer gets hurt in what was supposed to be, his few weeks to replace the injured Mac Jones. Zappi gets thrown in there. He was the 3rd string quarterback with everyone healthy at the start of the season, 4th round rookie out of Western Kentucky. And he had a good game against the Packers. They definitely kept him within his limits, didn't ask him to do too much, but he had a passing touchdown, didn't throw an interception, really let the Patriots stay in that game, went to overtime. And then I thought that he played really well this week. He really came out there, took care of the football, went through his reads, found the open guy, was really reliable. And I honestly think he had a better game than any one of Mac Jones's games. I mean, I don't count the pick that he had really as a pick because it was, perfectly thrown ball right off Nelson Aguilar's hands. And, without that, he's 17 for 20 with, near 200 passing yards and a touchdown. So Bailey Zappi had a really good game. And I think it's good for the Patriots because I think they can win a couple games until Mac Jones comes back. And I'm really intrigued to see how that quarterback room shakes out long-term because I think there are 2 guys there that are really similar. Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi are the same type of player where, they're really smart quarterbacks who have a great handle of the playbook, process the field really well. They're really accurate, but neither of them really has any physical trait that's going to stand out. So it's really going to be like who takes care of the football better and everything. I don't want to start a quarterback controversy, but if I was Mac Jones, I'd be worrying a little bit because Bailey Zappi really is a very similar quarterback.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation for the Patriots. Like you mentioned, I don't think there's going to be a quarterback controversy there this year. I think when Mac Jones, I mean, it is Bill Belichick and the Patriots, so anything could happen. I agree Mac Jones didn't have a great start to the season, but last season he performed really well for the most part.
Yeah.
The Patriots, we usually expect them to, the first month of the season takes a little bit of time for them to get rolling. I'd expect Mac Jones to come back and perform at least better than he did to start the season.
Yeah, Jones just threw a few too many picks, and it's not a great look for him that Zappi's taking care of the football better. But chances are, after a couple of games, Jones will come back there and hopefully play better. Maybe, that little bit on the sideline, getting to watch from there will help him. A little bit like how it helped Zach Wilson last year. He was better when he came back after Flacco had a stint at quarterback. So, Alex, do you think there are any other quarterbacks other than Pickett or Zappi that should see playing time this season from this rookie class?
Yeah, the first one that jumps out to me is Sam Howell. If you haven't heard Ron Rivera's statement on the state of the Commanders right now, he basically came out and called out Carson Wentz. He said that the difference between Washington and the rest of the other teams in the NFC East is quarterback. To me, that means he has no faith in Carson Wentz. So if you have no faith in him, they're 1-4, 2-3.
Check that.
But if he's coming out there and saying that to the public, I mean, might as well see what you have in the quarterback room besides Carson Wentz. Because I'd assume they're going to be in a position to draft a quarterback. We know Sam Howell has some talent. We've mentioned this over and over again, a potential first overall pick 2 years ago. So, might as well see what you have in him. And, maybe you get lucky. He plays really well, shows something, and maybe you want to hold off on quarterback and see what you can get in Sam Howell. But I'd at least let him play. Maybe not this week, but at least some point during the season because it seems like Wentz isn't the answer. So see what you have in Howell and then help that make your decision for next season.
One, I think that it's a bit ridiculous for Rivera to say that. One, because I don't think you should be bashing your quarterback publicly, and two, because it's not like the NFC East is loaded with established quarterbacks. It's really the other coaches in that division that are outcoaching Ron Rivera and that are allowing Jalen Hurts, Cooper Rush, and Daniel Jones to play the best football that they've played so far in the NFL. So that's just not a good look on him. I would push back a little bit. I don't think Sam Howell should be playing. If they're going to make that quarterback switch, it should be Taylor Heineke. I just don't think, when you're coaching a 53-man roster, you should be, putting the guy that they know is the third stringer. He's the third best, putting him in there because, he's the shiny new toy, the rookie that you want to try out. Heineke's definitely been outplaying Howell just because he's so much more experienced. I think that they make that switch. It should be him, not Howell.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I just think if you're gonna move on from Wentz, Heineke's not a long-term answer. See what you have in Howell at some point.
Makes sense. You think anyone else should be playing?
I think Ritter towards the end of the season for the same situation. You drafted him in the beginning of round 3. Mariota doesn't seem like the long-term answer. See what you have. See if you want to take a quarterback early next year.
Yeah, I agree. If you think that he's somewhat ready, if
Correct.
it's not going to be a good product on the field, there's really not much point. Let's move on to a different position groups. The running backs are really starting to gain some steam in this rookie class. Breece Hall has hit the ground running and receiving, actually, because he has almost as many receiving yards as rushing yards. I've been really impressed by him, and his carries have actually gone up every single week from week 1 to week 5. I think he's going to really just star the rest of the year. Kenneth Walker, you never want to be happy about someone's injury, but Rashad Penny's injury really opens the door for him, and I also think he's going to take over. Then you got Dameon Pierce, who's already performing really well for the Texans. So good showing so far from that running back class, and I think it's just going to keep better here on out.
Yeah, Dameon Pierce has been really impressive. He's probably been the most consistent rookie running back so far. He definitely has also had the biggest opportunity because he was a clear-cut starter in Houston. Breece Hall, like you mentioned, he's been gaining carries every week. He's definitely showing that he's the best running back in the Jets' backfield. I do like what they're doing, splitting carries between Hall and Michael Carter. We know that Hall had a lot of tread on the tires already coming out of college. So, I think it's nice to ease him in a little bit, but he's going to be hard to keep him off. It's going to be hard to keep him off the field. You saw his impact in both the receiving and the rushing game. And he really could have had 3 touchdowns last week. He was tackled at the 1 twice, including a 79-yard reception. So he's showing off his explosive playmaking ability. And Kenneth Walker, like you said, my RB1. I'm excited to see what he has in store for the rest of the season. Obviously, Penny's injury is unfortunate, but excited for Walker.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if any other running back will really emerge because so far not many other guys have been getting too many touches. I do have my eye on Brian Robinson, though. I think it's really telling that in his first game back from recovering from his gunshot injury that he suffered at the end of the offseason, he already outcarried Antonio Gibson 9-3. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the starter tomorrow night already, and I think that he's going to have a good rest of the season.
Yeah, I was a fan of Brian Robinson coming out, and I agree. First game back from a gunshot wound or multiple gunshot wounds in the leg.
Yeah.
Just to see that they have that much trust in him that, yeah, you can take more carries than Gibson your first game back. I think that says a lot. And he's a guy that I could see. We saw him in the preseason taking over snaps from Gibson. So I think it's just a matter of time Another guy that I wanna or that I expect to see more of, James Cook.
Mhm.
I don't think the Bills' rushing game is really good. Cook hasn't had a lot of opportunities. We saw that fumble in week one, but I think he's slowly starting to get back in the rotation, maybe getting a couple carries here and there. And he's a guy that maybe towards the end of the season you might see getting quite a few carries each game or
I
touches at least.
I just can't believe that he's only caught the ball 4 times this season, and they were all in one game. How you only throw to James Cook one game so far this season is kind of beyond me. I know they've got a good offense anyway, but I really think he was the best pass catching back in the draft, and I really do hope they utilize that. So speaking of pass catchers, what do you make so far of this wide receiver class? I think we've got a lot of guys who have had their moments, had their games. Thinking of Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jahan Dotson, George Pickens, even Romeo Dobbs. They've all had some good games and some, quiet outings. Do you think anyone from this group really breaks out and, has a star rest of the season like Justin Jefferson did? He started a bit quiet his rookie year and then he absolutely exploded. Do you expect that from anyone?
Not to that level. I think we've been spoiled by Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle in recent years with wide receivers hitting the ground running. These are all really talented guys, but it definitely will take some time to transition. We've seen all their potentials. Obviously, London's been, I'd say, the most consistent. I
Mhm.
don't think he's had like any really, low or games where he didn't, rack up too many receptions. Garrett Wilson, we saw him have a really good game against the Browns, but he's been quiet. George Pickens, in my opinion, might be a guy that, might pick it up towards the middle of the season. I think he's a really good receiving option. And, him and Kenny Pickett, there was talk that they looked really good together in the preseason, and I just want to say that catch from Pickens a couple weeks ago against the Browns was probably the best catch I've ever seen. I would argue it was better than Odell's one-handed catch against the
Oh,
Cowboys.
wow.
Yeah, it was. It was just amazing to watch. But he's obviously very talented. He kind of fell in the draft due to some injury concerns and some possible off the field issues.
Mhm.
But he's a really talented guy that I expect to become a favorite target for Kenny Pickett as the Steelers season moves forward.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think Romeo Dobbs actually might be the guy that I think is going to really have the best rest of the season, even if he was drafted way later than all these guys, because there's so much need for someone to step up in that wide receiver room. We know that Aaron Rodgers is going to rely on his veterans like Randall Cobb and Alan Lazard, but neither of those guys is really going to be a star. You can see him trusting Dobbs, getting the ball to him, even though he's made a couple mistakes like a fumble and a drop touchdown against the Patriots. I think Rodgers is going to keep trusting him. Really wants to develop that relationship. So I think Dobbs could get better and better this season. One guy I've been disappointed with though is Traylon Burks. Now he's on injured reserve right now with a turf toe, which is really not good because that's an injury that can linger. But even before that, he wasn't playing that well. He's a guy that both of us had as our wide receiver one, so we've got a lot riding on him in terms of being correct in a really stacked wide receiver draft class where we know a lot of other guys are going to be performing short term and long term. So I was disappointed to see him adjust really slowly, but it's not too surprising when you consider how limited his route tree was and how simplistic that offense was at Arkansas. I just hope that he can get healthy soon and start to progress throughout his rookie year so he can hit the ground running next year and at some point become the star that both of us thought he was going to be.
Yeah, I think at Arkansas the game plan was get the ball in Traylon Burks' hands and let him do whatever he could
Yeah.
do. And it's definitely not that easy at the NFL level. I think he probably has to refine his routes a little bit. But again, he reminded both of us of AJ Brown coming out, and AJ Brown became a star on the Titans. So I expect him to come back from that turf toe and start to show improvement. The final wide receiver that I want to mention, Jameson Williams. I mean, I feel like his name, obviously, he's not on the field because he's still recovering from his injury, but he's a dynamic player. And whenever he gets on the field, I expect him to start to make an impact for the Lions.
I agree. I can't wait to see him hit the field. Let's talk O-line a little bit now. Ekwonu and Cross, who both went in the top 10, they had a rough first couple weeks, but they've been really solid since then. I've been really pleased with seeing how they've held up in pass protection. Neither of them allowed a sack this past week. It's good for them that they've managed to improve so quickly. I expected it from Cross with Ekwonu. I thought it was going to be a little bit rougher in the beginning of his career because he was pretty raw, but they've been playing really well.
Yeah, I think we saw the first few weeks that transition to the NFL, but we see their athletic ability, their talent overall. It took a couple weeks to get used to playing on an NFL offensive line, but like you mentioned, both of them the past few weeks have been playing really well, and good for them. On the flip side, Evan Neal has struggled so far.
Yeah.
And to
Yes.
me, that's a little bit surprising. I
Yeah.
thought that he would kind of be ready to go coming from Alabama, but I don't think there's cause for concern. Like we mentioned, any jump from college to the NFL is a big transition. Some guys get it right away. Some guys it takes a little bit longer. And you can look no further than his teammate Andrew Thomas, who
Yep.
really struggled his rookie year, and he continuously got better each year. And now he's playing at a Pro Bowl level
Yes.
for the Giants. So I feel like if there's any place for Neal to go to and struggle at the beginning of his rookie season, Andrew Thomas is a great guy to have as a teammate because he can say, look, I was pretty bad my rookie year, and now I'm a Pro Bowl caliber player. So I'm not concerned at all. I expect it, a little bit longer of a transition time, but things happen.
I agree with you. It's a bit surprising. I thought he was pretty pro ready, but we've seen it with Thomas. I'm not worried about him long time. One guy that I've really been pleasantly surprised by has been Cole Strange. There was a pick in the first round that so many people mocked. Even Sean McVay went out of his way in a press conference to make fun of Bill Belichick for that one. And Strange has been really good. Like I'm talking, he might have been one of the best 5 rookies across all positions so far. He's letting up pretty much no pressure, which is really important because I think the Patriots' offensive tackles have been given in to the DNs a little too much, but because the interior has been so good with David Andrews and Onwenu alongside Cole Strange, quarterbacks have been able to step up in the pocket and deliver without being bothered by the pass rush too much, and that doesn't happen if Cole Strange isn't playing at a really solid level already as a rookie. I thought that it was going to take him a while to adjust to the NFL because I really liked his athleticism and his technique coming out, but I didn't think he really had the strength. Looks like the Patriots got him in that weight room, and man, he's playing really well already.
Yeah, I feel like the Patriots they have something that helps get those rookies ready to play when they need
Yeah.
them. Bailey Zappi, Cole Strange, Jack Jones, not guys that you would expected to be really good right from the jump. Obviously, scouting plays a role, but I think coaching plays a big role as well.
Oh yeah, they put them in a position to succeed. They're not going to ask too much from them. I honestly don't know the offensive line X and O's as well as whoever's coaching that for the Patriots. But props to them because they're clearly doing the right job with Cole Strange so far.
Yeah, and as we wrap up our offensive section, 5 weeks in, who's your pick for offensive rookie of the year, Kosta?
I'm going to stick with my initial pick. I gave Breece Hall, and I'm going to stick with Breece Hall. I think he's really gaining so much steam. I'm going to say that, I'll let you ask who yours is because that's who I was about to cite, I'm pretty sure. Is it still who you had going into the season?
I'm going to stick with him.
Okay.
If it wasn't for the Rashad Penny injury,
Mm-hmm.
I would have jumped off the bandwagon. But
Yep.
I mean, we saw his explosiveness, and I did pick him at the start of the season. So I'm going to stick with him. He definitely has the
Kenneth
talent.
Walker. Yeah.
Yes, Kenneth Walker. Sorry. He has the talent to do it, and no one's really super far ahead in the race. I think Breece Hall and Dameon Pierce should be the 2 front runners right now. I think Chris
Mm-hmm.
Olave should be there, but Kenneth Walker with a few big games could catch right up to him.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's definitely going to be close. It's going to be fun to watch that race, and why not let a running back take that glory, take that honor this year? Because I think that trio is going to have a really good pair of, or 3 rookie seasons. What about on the defensive side of the ball? Who's your defensive rookie of the year pick 5 weeks in? Have you changed that one, or are you going to stick with Hutchinson?
Sauce. Sauce has been the best rookie. I mean, I think it's hands down. I don't think he gets the respect from everyone that he deserves because it's. I don't want to compare him to Revis already, but teams aren't targeting him that much. He has
Yeah.
one interception, but he's not really being targeted because he's such a really good lockdown corner. And the crazy thing is, he has DJ Reed on the other side, who's just as good, if
Yeah.
not been playing better than him. So the fact that teams aren't throwing to DJ Reed and they look to either their first or their second option and won't throw to Sauce either, that says a lot about how well Sauce is playing.
Yeah, no, Sauce is definitely my pick too. I think Hutchinson will get better and better as the year goes on, but Sauce has been playing at such a good level. I do want to bring attention to Devin Lloyd too, though. I think he's squarely in the running, and he's only a little bit behind Sauce Gardner right now. I mean, Lloyd has 49 tackles, dude. Through 5 weeks, he has 49 tackles, along with 2 picks. He's been having a huge impact in both phases. I was shocked that he fell to the back end of the first round. I had a 1.4 on him. He was one of my top 10 highest graded players. I just think he's going to be such a good player in this league, and he's already showing it.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of been the centerpiece of that Jaguars defense so far this season. And I think, we saw the Jaguars – these past 2 weeks haven't been the best for the Jags, but the first 3 weeks of the season, I think they impressed us and were better than we expected, and that can definitely be, at least in part, due to Devin Lloyd's contributions on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah. Holistically, who are a couple rookies that you really hope will be able to get more opportunities, because we haven't gotten the chance to talk about them because they're just not on the field? Who do you really want to see on the field more?
The first guy that comes to mind for me is Jermaine Johnson.
Mhm.
I mean, as a Jets fan, I've been watching those games, and the Jets have a better pass rush than they have the past 15 years. So he hasn't been able to get as much playing time as I would have hoped because they have other talent there. But he's been getting increased snaps every week. I know he has an ankle injury from last week. He should be day to day, maybe out 1 week. But I just kind of expect him, and I hope to see him get more playing time as the year goes on. He's gotten some good pressures, gotten to the quarterback, and he has at least 1 sack. And he's been making plays and getting better each week. So he's a guy that I'd like to see just get on the field more.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a guy it makes no sense to us why he's not playing, and that's Nakobe Dean. I mean, he fell to the 3rd round because of a medical issue that popped up late in the process, but he was the heart and soul of that Georgia defense, which allowed them to win the championship, produced the first overall pick, several of their first rounders. He was the best player on that defense, man. He can play football, plain and simple. And I don't know why the Eagles, through the first few weeks, didn't even give him a single defensive snap. I would love to know what's going on there, because it just confuses me.
There has to be something, whether
You
it's
would think.
because he was, in my opinion, he was too good of a player to not see any snaps on defense.
Yeah.
He flew all around the field. You don't need to play him at middle linebacker. You could play him at outside linebacker. Just get him on the field. I'm not saying he's one of the best 11 defensive players on the Eagles, but I expect him to be one of the top 16. So I feel like he'd get at a minimum a couple snaps a game just for guys that need a breather.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we end the show?
I want to mention Jordan Davis. He's been really good in the snaps that he's played.
Mm-hmm.
But again, just the lack of consistent playing time, probably due to how big he is and his conditioning. And that's to be expected with someone that's like 6'6", 345 pounds. But he's been impressive when he's been on the field. It's just unfortunate that he can't be on the field for longer, because if he was, I think he would make a bigger impact for the Eagles than he already does.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to figure that out, because they paid way too much of a draft pick, picking him 13th overall for him to play this little. We all knew that it was a major concern of whether or not he could play a lot of snaps. He didn't play that many at Georgia. We knew that there was a lot of talent on that line, but a lot of it was because of that conditioning. Maybe it's just a transition. It's going to take him more than one offseason to get into the shape to play that much at that size. We don't know how good of a diet of just his habits from day to day he had in college. He's probably got a nutritionist and all that right now in the NFL, and it might just be an adjustment. And within a couple of years, he'll be playing more and more snaps, and maybe we do get to see Jordan Davis starring from the defensive tackle position, like many of us had hoped.
Yeah, and I know we mentioned Aiden Hutchinson a little bit before. He's a guy that I just like to see be more consistent.
Mm-hmm.
The Lions have a really, really bad defense.
Yeah.
They're letting up a ton of points, and he's the second overall pick. He has a ton of talent as a pass rusher. I just like to see him make a little bit more impact on the game for the Lions.
Yeah. So I think that wraps up our rookie review podcast. It's really fun getting to see these rookies perform every week. And like I said earlier, make sure you're checking our Instagram. Every Tuesday, we're posting our rookies of the week and the runner-ups. Let us know in the comments if we missed anyone. We'll keep an eye out for them the next week. It's going to be really fun seeing who breaks out the rest of the season. Usually you get guys that, weren't even being mentioned at this point. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown was a guy who, if we did this show, and I know we did last year, we probably didn't mention him, or maybe we made the right call and said he deserves more attention. I don't quite remember, but he broke out second half of the season. We'll see who that guy is. We'll be back in 4 weeks for another one of these episodes. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon.